I love you, Ann. I'm so happy
I
you're
love
here.
Thank
Um,
you.
I know you're running across the country doing the work of God, training up missionaries, you and Dusty, preaching the gospel, empty nesters just flying and doing what God said to do, right?
We are. I think my nest is so empty, I don't even go back to the nest right now.
No, girl, I get it. I get it.
It's
So
all good.
I am so happy to have you on here. We're talking about just revival. We're talking about our lives. We're going to talk about Crowned. I want you to weigh in on that as well. But really what I'd like to do first is for you to just kind of update everybody on what you and Dusty are doing and just kind of give us the 10,000 foot view of what you're doing and what God's called you,
Wow.
the season God's called you into.
Yeah, it is definitely a full plate of life, but we feel like it's a God. We don't feel, we know it's a God assignment. So we joined Mountain Gateway in 2020, which we're here in Dripping Springs. As I said, our students graduate. So we have an academy where we train missionaries. It's an 11-month program. The students come in at the end of the 11 months, they get to decide where they're going next in life. It's really a time to seek Jesus. So we just finished that, and they have all accepted the invitation to move forward. So we've got 6 of our students who will be leaving to go to Guatemala to language school. And then
Awesome.
it's so amazing. And then we've got a couple of students who will go to our second year serve, and we have another full cohort next year. So what that means is our academy for next year is full. The other students are moving forward. So what does that mean for Dusty and I? It's an exciting time. So first of all, inside of Mountain Gateway, you talked about revival. And Callie, the wind of God is blowing across the nations. It's the most, I listen to Britt and Audrey, who, if some of our friends here don't know Britt and Audrey, they're the founders of Mountain Gateway, and they served as missionaries in Mexico. And they literally spent their lives around tiny handmade tables, ministering the gospel to one person at a time, just faithful, one person at a time, one disciple at a time. They would disciple people for years, and they would just be faithful in the small things. And all of a sudden, it's like this tsunami, the wind of God breathing, and things are happening so fast. What used to take years to disciple 1 or 2, or to see a small group of people come to Jesus, now they're coming to Jesus by the thousands. Thousands.
Woo!
The nations are being shaken, and it is so exciting. And I know that God's hand is on America. He has not forgotten us. And the things that are happening around the world, I know they're going to happen here as well, as we continue to press and pray. And so there's such an excitement in my spirit. But for Dusty and I, we have accepted the opportunity to go to language school. So he and I will be leaving and moving to Guatemala and learning Spanish. And I think that we're going to be moving over at the end of January.
Okay.
Yeah.
What a blessing. And you'll be there how many months? 9?
Well, it average takes about 9 months to learn Spanish, to be fluent. Okay. So it's based on how fast we learn. So everybody can pray that we have a supernatural ability to learn in Jesus' name. And then I have this stirring in my spirit of what that opens up. Even in the US, opportunities for us to begin to minister to our Spanish speaking community, which is being stirred, right?
Yes,
just inside of your church alone. I love coming and seeing what you are doing to minister
to the Spanish.
So.
Yes. It is amazing. You know, I've said it over and over. We don't like hearing it, but I know, you know how when you just know something and there's no change in it, it's like, you know it in your spirit, you might as well just go through it, because God's going to be faithful in the situation. He's not going to deliver you from the situation. He's going to be faithful in the situation. And we have we live in America where we want out of anything that's painful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's really, our blessing has become our curse. But God is training the church. He is really training the church, and he's awakening the church. And we are supposed to be blessed. We are supposed to live in the land of Goshen. We're supposed to be able to, and we have the insight, the revelation, the wisdom, the power, but it never said that we would not, the Bible never said we would not go through trouble.
Right.
The Bible never said that we would not face obstacles or mountains or things that there's no way, Red Sea moments where unless God moves, we're not going through, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where we are in America. That's
Yeah.
where we are in America. And I've said it, and a bunch of prophets that I don't know, but that I trust and watch have said it. They've said we're seeing and going to see the best of the best times as it relates to the church of the living God. But we're
Yeah.
also going to see some really horrific things in the natural, and some things that could shake our faith if we're not solid in our faith in the natural. And so running tandem in America, we're headed for a season, I believe, where things are going to get worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish I could say something, but I believe the church is getting better. The church is becoming more powerful. And I also believe God is going to turn this nation around. I do not believe this is going to end in travesty. I do not believe, I don't believe that our prophetic time line, America's prophetic timeline is through. I believe we have a revival that we're supposed to literally pay for all across America. I believe there's going to be a turning in this country. And if you looked at the news, you would say, Pastor Kelly, you're lying. It does not look that way. But we can go by what we see. God is building an army right now, and he's clarifying the church's vision. The church at large. He's clarifying our vision. So yeah, you're there at Mountain Gateway, you and Dusty with Audrey and Brett, and y'all are doing great things. And there's pastors all across America that are, they're in the trenches, they're ministering to their cities, they're feeding the poor, they're helping people, they're preaching the gospel. There's Jenny, and you and I are both a part of this ministry. We both have dedicated our hearts to help Jenny with the call for her voice to gather 1 million women and to turn the country to turn the Christian women in this country into a praying, literal, mobilized army, a praying army. So we're a part of that. And then, of course, I'm here in my local church doing things that we're doing locally, and I see what God is doing. But I also know that we have to prepare ourselves. Our faith has to be strong. We have to prepare ourselves for what is coming so that we're not shaken. So the church can look to us for peace. The church can look to us for answers because we have them from him. And so I'm not shaken. I'm not shaken. The elections, yes, I know they're still trying to work all of that out, and we'll see how all that comes out in the wash. But I know God's in control, and I'm praying and doing my part. And that's what God's asked us to do. He's asked us to pray and do our part, and not to pray and do nothing, but to pray and do our part. And part of what we have been called to do, you've been called to do, I've been called to do, and a whole lot of women, is to call women across this nation to a solemn assembly of daily prayer. That's what's going to change us in. That's what's going to change this nation in. Nothing short of women and men that will pray morning, noon, and night, and that are willing not to just be weekend warriors. Check. I went to church on Sunday. Who cares? Well, I'm glad you went to church on Sunday, but is church in me Monday through Sunday? And is the gospel being lived out through my life? Am I dying out to the Lord daily? And these are things that literally have consumed my thinking, consumed my way of life. By nature, I like to have fun. And by nature, if I just did what I wanted to do, I'd be in a continuous party. But you know what? We're in a time where we need warriors. We need warriors, and we need people to find their post in the body of Christ. And that's what you and Dusty are doing. You're helping young men and women that feel called to missions find their post. That's what pastors are doing across America. I believe we're going to see such a shift in the revivals in America that there's no name places are going to just start flowing
Yes.
with the glory of God. People that were
Yeah.
barely getting by are going to turn into like heavenly wells where the glory of the
Yep.
Lord is just
Yep.
sprouting out across America. And I believe that it's for all of us. It's not for a select few. As many as want in on this revival and can get in.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kelly, I think you're right. It's going to look different, you know, and I think sometimes that's why America is slow to get it, is because we think that the gospel should be comfortable. Like it should be a place where we feel comfortable. We don't want to get uncomfortable. We don't want to have to suffer for the gospel. And the Lord took me yesterday morning, actually, to 1 Peter 4. And verse 12 says, "Dear friends, do not be surprised at the painful trial you are suffering, as though something strange were happening to you, but rejoice that you participate in the suffering of Christ, so that you may be overjoyed when his glory is revealed."
Wow.
And
wow.
that's what I think this season is about, is our willingness to say yes,
Yes.
whatever it cost us. Is our yes to Jesus, is our devotion to Jesus, where we're at the lowest place. And I think that's why prayer is the foundation.
Well, you can't do it. You can't do it without a prayer.
Can't do it. It is the everything. Yep. On our faces. Yeah.
You can't do it without a prayer, because prayer is the great equalizer in our lives. It's not only the place that we feel the presence of God, we get encouragement. And, you know, I told on the last video I did with Jack last week, I said, we've got to quit looking at prayer as our get out of hell free card. In other words, we're praying so we won't go to hell. We're praying so we won't sin. We're praying so we're praying so that we can literally become the representation of Christ. So Christ can literally, the image of Christ can be seen through my own expression. There's not another Callie out there. There's not another Ann out there. You're the only Ann. But your expression can change a world.
Yeah.
And maybe that world is changed through 5 missionaries that become Reinhard Bonnke's and change nations that people in America don't even know. But the 5 people that Ann impacted through her expression, and the 5 people that Callie impacted through my expression, we've got to start understanding that to be great in God is not the United States way of looking at greatness.
Right. That's so good, Callie.
You know, because people will prophesy, God has great things for you. You're going to do great things. You're called, and he's going to turn in your life around, and and all of that's true. All of that's true. But greatness in the eyes of God is my obedience. It's my abandonment to the things of this world. It's my obsession and passion for him. That is greatness. And you know what? It may look like me and Todd and Cindy and Bob pastoring a church of 250 the rest of our life. But if we send one person out of here, one person, if we feed one homeless person, if we can change one life, if we can minister to a group of young people and they want to serve God, then we've done. If I've obeyed God, then I've walked out the greatness of my calling.
Yes.
And we have to get that, because I'm telling you, you know, we've got brothers and sisters across the world that are dying for the gospel.
Yeah.
And we have a hard time dying to our will.
Right.
I'm talking about me. Talking about me. I have a hard time dying to my comforts, my will. You know, I want me time. Have you ever wanted me time? And you hear this so much now. Oh, I got to have for mental health. Oh, phooey.
Right.
Jesus for mental health.
Is our mental health.
He is our mental health. Yeah, we need rest. I get it. Our bodies need rest. We need times with our husbands. I understand all that. I'm not saying that's not true, but you can have all that and be crazy as a Betsy bug. Because Jesus is the only thing that gives us a true sound mind. Jesus is the only thing that helps us overcome the generational curses of our family and all the weird craziness that we could all walk in if we choose to. It's Jesus. It's Jesus. And he is calling the church to the church is going to look different.
Yeah. Lay our lives down.
Lay our lives down, and it's going to look different. I'm sick of celebrities in the church. Now, I don't mean some are called to be famous. I understand that.
Yeah.
Not,
Yeah.
but we got too many people trying to be famous that are not called to be famous.
Yeah. Our
Some
greatness
people,
is not measured. Yeah. I'm
yes,
sorry. It's
yes,
not, our greatness is not measured by the number of people in our churches. Our greatness is the willingness to sit down with the one,
the
to
one,
go after the one,
yeah,
to say, Jesus, who is the one?
who is
Who's
the
here
one?
today? And be willing to give him our yes.
To give him our yes.
Whatever.
I've been really touched by my husband, because I'm a less patient person. And you probably, everybody that knows me knows that, probably figured that out, but I love to disciple and help people. But if you don't get it quick, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to pray for you, because I'm not going to waste my time. And, but that's not always the right approach.
Yeah.
We really should ask Holy Spirit about every individual.
Yeah.
But I watch my husband, and this is what makes me love him so much. He takes time with the people nobody else takes time with.
Yeah.
I mean, like, lots of his time.
Yeah.
Like people that are not coming to church faithful, that maybe come once a month, but he's called to them and he goes fishing with them and he helps them. And, the person in the church that has got something wrong with them, and you're going to have to literally physically take care of them the whole time you take them to the conference. That's him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God, you've got way more God in you than I do.
Wow.
I mean, you've got but God has taken us to the place where we will take the time with the one. If the only way we can minister is on the stage, we have lost our way.
Right.
And
that's not kingdom. The
not,
kingdom is the greatest is those who serve. It is the willingness to sit down with the one. I'm thinking about even the work in Nicaragua right now. So Britt and Audrey met a man years ago. He was not a believer, but they just loved him. They discipled him. And I believe this was in 2008 when they were introduced to him. And they've just loved him. And he's such a powerful man of God now, but he's been instrumental. So within the last 30 days, Britt has met another evangelist. His name's Nathan Morris. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, I've heard of him. I've heard of Nathan Morris.
So they've connected, and Nathan wanted to get into Nicaragua, but the door wasn't open. And so we've got this man who Britt and Audrey have discipled, and Britt felt the stirring by the Holy Spirit to make some connections and see what would happen. And so as a result of this discipleship of the one,
yes,
they went out into the furthest village down the rivers to tell pastors, anybody, not the ones in the city, but the village pastor who is pastoring his small community, and went and dispatched workers to say, we want all the pastors in Nicaragua to come together in unity to see our nation saved. And because of that discipleship, his influence opened up the opportunity where, Callie, 3,200 pastors in 3 days gathered together, saying, we will lay down our titles, we will lay down our agendas, and we will seek Jesus, and we will go after this nation to the deepest village.
Yes.
Because of the one. And that's been stirring so much inside of me. Even, I don't know if you want to transition to Crown now, but I feel so compelled that we get our friends and our family into Crowned. And I want to tell you why. Is it okay for me to hop over here?
Sure, you do whatever you feel. It's open.
So I was reading about Lazarus, and Jesus, first of all, he gets the message that Lazarus is sick and he doesn't respond immediately. And then he does. And so I think sometimes one of the things is those who are discouraged because Jesus didn't move when and how you want it to.
Yep.
You got to be faithful
Yep.
You've got to maintain your confidence in him
Yep.
in the waiting.
In the
And you
way.
don't say, well, I went to Crowned, I've done that. It doesn't work. It didn't work. I asked Jesus, you preached a turnaround and I'm still in a mess. Whatever. Like, you just keep pressing. You
Yep.
keep expecting him to show up. So
Yep.
Jesus shows up and he calls Lazarus from the dead. And it says that he comes out of the grave, right? Here comes the dead man, but he was still bound. It says that he came out alive, but he was still bound.
Yes.
And guess who had to actually loose him? He was alive, but he was still bound. And it took the people around him to unwrap his grave clothes, right?
Yes. Yes.
Him. And I believe that if we will all go after the one, they're going to find their freedom, but they need us, Callie.
To
They need
unwrap them.
me. They need you. They need the women on here to help unwrap them and let them experience true freedom. And that's what I believe. When we get into that arena, there's going to be freedom come. But I believe what's going to happen is we're locking arms and we're saying, we're doing this together. I'm going to walk out your freedom with you. I'm willing to take your grave clothes off.
Yes.
Which means that I think about unwrapping someone who already smells. He's stinking, right?
Yes.
Now I'm willing to get dirty. I'm willing to put my hands on something that doesn't smell good, doesn't look good, but it's like you just said about Pastor Bob. He's willing to get in there with somebody's mess and help unwrap them and let people see and experience the freedom that we're experiencing. And you know what, Kelly? I need somebody. We all need somebody in our lives that help us. Yes, we need the community. And that's what I believe God's raising up that army.
They're waiting on us. They're waiting on us.
Yeah.
We were in, Jenny and the Her Voice team and myself were in Las Vegas. And all of these young women afterwards just coming up, loving, needing mamas, so wanting to connect. And I realized there's a whole generation of women from 50 down to teenagers that need spiritual mothers.
Yeah.
And we are called for such a time as this to be those mothers to them, to be that voice so that they can see what God did for us.
Yeah.
They can see the transformation. You know, when I was having last year at Crowned, after Crowned, the Lord spoke to me pretty quick and said, Callie, next year it's not going to be big. This place is not big enough. You've got to take it to a different venue. And so I had that in the back of my mind and I knew God had spoken it. And then we ended up getting to Her Voice in July, and the Lord spoke to me and he said, we had Lou there, which was an answer to prayer. It was divine. It was a divine connection, but I saw God come down and brand us in July. There was a branding from heaven. And I'm sitting at the table and then I have a vision of Crowned 2023. And we were not in this building. We were in another building. And I saw God come and brand it again. And then I saw us, Her Voice 2023, and I saw the third branding. Like it was, when God says three times, something 3 times, it's done.
Yeah.
And I knew that we were supposed to have Lou all 3 times just because of what he carried and represented. But I also knew that, and God's worked all that out, but I also knew that there was something I have never really marketed to Houston.
Yeah.
And so, we're doing our best to talk to pastors. We pray for us. We're trying to we are going to get a Zoom together with a bunch of pastors here and talk to them soon. So I've been going and visiting people, but the Lord said, Callie, I want you to don't just focus on everybody y'all already know. Reach out to these Houston pastors and invite these women in. There's something I want to do in Houston as well. And I want a whole group of Houstonians in this that have not been in this prior to this. So I said, okay, Lord. And we've been praying about this and asking God to help us. Well, I got up one morning about 4 and I went back to bed because I get up at 6:30 and I dreamed that we had a prayer dome over Houston. That the prayer had grown so much in Houston that it was an actual prayer dome. And I heard the Lord say that prayer dome is going to protect you. And so I just, okay. And he said, Crowned will be a place to build that army for the prayer dome in Houston.
Mm.
Well, I said, okay, I'm tracking with you, Lord. And then I had a dream, and I think you've probably heard this, but I dreamed I came to my little house. You've been to my house, it's not very big. And in my house is an 18-wheeler. And I'm like, Bob, get this thing out of here. It's time for this thing to work. It can't be parked in my house. My house is not big enough. This thing's got to go out and take what it's supposed to take. 18 provision, 18-wheeler is what we get our provision. They truck in our provision. So I am like on fire to get that thing out of the house and to get it. And 18 stood out in my mind. Well, when I sent out the request from some pastors to talk to them about their building, one of the pastors, it's actually our oversight, and we love Pastor Richard Hardy. He pastors a church called Inspire Church. They built a new building. So I reached out to them. Well, in my reaching out to them, I knew they seated over 1,000, but trying to find a church nowadays that seats 2,000 and above, they don't make them anymore. People do multiple services.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. A few days later, they called and said, we've opened our church. Several pastors opened their church to me. Actually, it was just it was amazing. But they said, we've opened our church. And I said to Tracy, who runs everything, I said, Tracy, how many does it seat? She goes, 1,834 seats. And I said, oh my God, there's our 1,800. God said 1,800. And I knew with what we would have online, we would have over 2,000 women. And the Lord said, Callie, part of what you're doing in Crown is you're building the prayer dome over. Your assignment is to call these women in, and we're building a prayer dome over Houston and over Texas, but we're also building a prayer dome over America. Yes. And he said, the momentum we get here is going to, and I saw 2,000 praying women, is the momentum we're going to have in Portland with 5,000, me and 3. So if you take 1,800 women and they say me and 3 others, we're over 5,000 people for Portland for the national gathering. And it's not about numbers. You and I both know, but if God said, I want 250,000 prayer hubs, we got to have some numbers. Exactly. We got to have some warriors. So the Lord said, Callie, you're gathering women warriors. This is not a pretty little conference, and there's nothing wrong with, listen, Jenny's conference is pretty, but it's a women warrior conference. Right. But it's not just about, and there's all kinds of conferences, and I'm not ditching any of that. I'm just saying this is a war cry. Yeah. From God, and he's calling in his women warriors warriors that do pray and want to learn how to pray. That do live for God. And then I had another dream, and this dream, I've had several dreams about having a baby, but this dream, as the women were coming in the conference, half of them were pregnant already. Half of them, their bellies were showing. They were pregnant with the promises of God, but half of them weren't. And then all of a sudden I see a vision of us walking out, and every woman there is pregnant with the promise of God. Everyone, the Lord said, Callie, every woman's going to leave there with clarity of vision. Every woman's going to leave there with the presence of God in their womb, and they're going to begin to birth what I've called them to birth in the earth. What I've called them to birth in the earth. And so I know it's going to happen. We're going to minister, but there is going to be a solidifying and a resolve put in these women to do what they've been called to birth in the earth. Yeah.
And you're so gifted. Well, I was going to say, part of the gift on your life is to equip women. Right. And we know, and even on Jenny is an equipping center. And I keep just hearing that word, like you model and you equip. And I laugh and just told you before we started that I talk about you all the time. I tell people about you all the time, and they're funny stories, but the reality is it is your life that has testified of the freedom that we can experience, but also the equipping, your willingness. Callie, every day you get on and you lead women in prayer. You've been so faithful to the mandate of God on your life. He called you to get online every day, and you said yes, and
Yes.
you continue to say yes. So what you're doing is you're equipping women. And so that's, I keep just sensing that word and hearing the word equipping. And my husband has actually shared this before, but, and so you may have heard it, but the word equip, when it talks about equipping the saints, that word is a nautical term.
Wow.
Equipping is when the sail is stretched out on a ship and the wind blows. And when the sail catches the wind and it pops into place. And then as soon as it pops into place, now it's got the momentum. And
Wow.
you better hang on, because it takes off and it goes so fast because it caught the wind and it equipped it. And now it is like a locomotive.
Right.
It's caught the wind. That's the equipping. And I believe that's what's going to happen is these women are going to walk in. Some are already ready to birth, others
Yes.
aren't. But as a result, when they walk out, we're all going to walk out ready to fulfill the plan and purposes of God on our life. And we're going to be so fully equipped that we catch the wind of the Spirit when we're there. And it's like the super bloom, right?
Yes.
What like it's just, we're going to turn around and go, how did this happen? It was 1,800, it's 5,000, and now it's 10,000 and 50,000.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
pastors, not just in Houston, but
But all
pastors
across.
around the United States. And now we've got people in every state, prayer hubs, 250,000, and then the million. And you go, how did that happen?
How did it happen?
It's because we were willing to say yes in the small things. And then the rain came, we caught the wind, and it's like, here we go.
And the
This
harvest.
thing is taken. Yeah. The
You know what was
harvest.
so crazy about me seeing that prayer dome? I saw that in a vision, in early morning vision in prayer, not in prayer, in a dream. Because I always go back to sleep and I sleep till 6:30 and I dreamed it. And then I want to say 2 days later, maybe no more than 2 or 3, I get a prophetic word sent to me from several different places. You know how that goes. A prophetic word will come out and several different people will see it and say, you need to hear it. And one of the girls had heard me say the prayer dome thing, and they sent me a prophetic word from Chuck Pierce, where he said that Houston would have a prayer dome over it, and that the enemy would try to take Houston out, but God would protect it.
Wow.
So that was a confirmation to the dream that I had, that we have to have the prayer dome, not only in America, but Houston. The enemy's going to go after strategic cities in America.
Yeah.
You can write this down and take it to the bank. He's going to go after strategic cities in America. And the prayer domes are going to decide the outcome.
Yeah.
The cities that have just literally become passionate about prayer, we're going to see miraculous things. We're going to see miraculous things in areas across this country where prayer domes are built. Now we are called in Her Voice to build a national prayer dome.
Yeah.
But that does not abdicate my responsibility to build a prayer dome over my home, over my city, and over my region.
Yeah.
We can't abdicate our responsibility. It's time to stand and do our part, because yes, Jenny and the whole crew, you and I, we're building this thing nationwide, but we have a part to play every day in the securing of that prayer dome over my home.
Absolutely.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go on and tell me what you heard.
I heard a story just last night, sitting around the table, and this man that we were eating dinner with told the story of, it's somewhere up in near North Dakota, South Dakota, and he was driving through the area headed to meet a friend, and he said he noticed all the crops around, the soybean and the corn was just real short, just looked like a drought, and it had been a drought. And so all the crops just looked terrible, he said, as he drove. And he said, and then he hit a stretch of land. And it was as if it was just, like you said, like something encircled this portion of land. And he said the corn was above his head. The soybeans were green. Everything looked so healthy. And he was like, it was the strangest thing because it just went from drought, small, dead plants. And then he hits a line and it's just miles. He said that that it was lush and green. Well, he arrives at his pastor friend's house and they begin to talk about what he experienced. And this pastor said, when I came to this city, the Lord told me that he would protect my land. And he said, I own 70, I think it was 70 acres of land. And what he was driving through was this pastor's land.
Wow.
And he said, I can't explain it. He said, but if you go to each corner of my property, the harvest is plentiful. I have an amazing harvest, but you go outside of the parameters of my property and you see the drought. And I believe that's what you're saying is about our cities. We get to change
the landscape of our city.
The landscape will look different because we got on our knees, we got on our face. I've really been sensing this, and even physically, Callie, like in my prayer time, it's like, how low can I go? Jesus, like, I just want to put my face on the ground. Like, it's about you, Jesus. This is as low as I can go in honor of you, what you're doing. And all I want is to say yes to you. Yes. Help me, like, go to the most deceitful part of me in my heart, the things that I think even are like, will you just open me up and don't let anything hinder my open hands and my willing heart to say yes to you, whatever it costs. Callie, I don't know if I'm there. Well, I know I'm not there. I hope I'm there, but I don't. I want to get there to where no matter what he asks of me, that I'm willing to say yes and maintain the lowest position of humility, because in that's where I believe he'll really use us. Yeah. And then we look around and go, all of my children are serving Jesus. My grandchildren, my friend, everybody that knows me, everybody that comes in contact with me knows Jesus, because the landscape changes where we are. Yes. That's what I'm hearing you say, is we can impact our local communities, our city.
I had a sweet little girl pick me up from the airport yesterday and was taking me to the airport, and she first time to know me, and we were I prayed for her, and we had been in church together, and she called me Mama Callie, and then she said, oh, is it okay for me to call you Mama Callie? And I said, of course it's okay for you to call me Mama Callie. And I got out of the car and I realized there are so many women that need mothers. Yeah. What does a mother do? A mother believes in your dreams. Yeah. A mother doesn't compete with you. A mother nurtures you. A mother will lay her life down for her babies. Yeah. And I realized we have a drought of spiritual mothers. Yeah. God is raising up women that will lay their life down for their spiritual babies, for the generations after us. Yeah. And the only way to do that effectively is like what you said, is to be willing to take the lowest position. Yeah. We can't compete. We've got to lose the word compete. Yeah. We've got to lose the word, even the word influence. Mm. Hmm. Now, we want to be influential for God. I understand that. I want to have an influence, but it has to be for the Lord, not for me. And I told this last week, but I'll say it again for your sake so you can hear it. But it rattled me about a week back, maybe a week and a half. I dreamed I was in the line to step before the Lord with my whole life. I had my scroll in front of me. And we were at the judgment seat, and the Lord was looking at our works, and there were a lot of people ahead of me, but I could hear the Lord talking back and forth to people just barely. And I was looking at my scroll, and I was so happy that everything God had asked me to do, I'd finished. Mm-hmm. And I was very happy about that. And my personality is task oriented. So I like to finish things. I like to accomplish things. So I was happy. Yeah. Especially, I was actually really happy because I've had ADHD and sometimes I can get sidetracked. So I was real happy that all those things were checked off. And I had a lot of joy standing there in that line. The lady in front of me was weeping. And so I said to her, I said, honey, what is wrong? And she said, I didn't finish my list. I didn't finish what well, she didn't say list. I didn't finish the assignments God gave me. And I said, well, honey, what happened? She goes, I did everything God said to do. I let him change me and work on me. And I repented. I followed every instruction, but I didn't finish. I wasn't able to get it all done. And I said, well, that scripture in Hebrews where it talks about, our fathers of the faith, and many of them died having yet not received the promise, but it didn't happen in their lifetime, but it happened in their lifeline. So it's probably okay. And she goes, well, I did my best. She steps up before the Lord. I'm right behind her. And she's got tears running down her face. And the Lord said, honey, why are you crying? And she goes, I didn't finish my assignments. And the Lord said, oh, yes, you did. Oh, yes, you did. You finished the most important assignment that I ever gave you. You allowed me to be formed in you. You allowed me to transform you. He said that those assignments will be finished in your spiritual lifeline. You did, but you did the most important. You allowed the inward you to be transformed.
Wow.
And then I woke up and the Lord said, Kelly, there will be those that finished their assignments, but did not finish their assignment inwardly. And what the Lord is doing, I believe, to the body of Christ, he's making us look at motives. He's making us look at why we do what God asked us to do. Yeah. Do you know you can do what God asked you to do for the wrong reason?
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, God, forgive me. I want my motives to be right. I want my heart to be right. I want to do the things you've called me to do for the right reason, but I want my relationship with you to be the paramount thing, that you finish the work that you started in me.
Yes. Wow.
And really everything we're called to do, we have an earthly assignment, but in that earthly assignment is an internal assignment.
Yeah.
And we have to get a hold of that.
Yeah.
If we want to be really successful, what God calls successful, great for God.
Isn't that to bring him glory in all that we do?
Yes.
Like, it's all about Jesus. It's all about you, and however he chooses to use us. That's why I love what you said. If you and Pastor Bob and Pastor Cindy and Pastor Todd, you do what's in front of you and you're faithful, and it's 200 chairs or it's 500 or it's 5,000, whatever. If what he's called you to do is bringing him glory.
Yes.
And it makes me weep just because the other day I was praying and I asked the Lord this question. I said, Lord, please help me to steward the task that you've put in my hands and do it well and bring you glory. And I just felt like I just meant it from the depths of who I was, And I actually have my Bible open to what I say is my life mission, which is John 17:4. It says, I have brought you glory on earth by completing the work you gave me to do.
Wow.
And I prayed that and I said, help me, Lord, to steward the task that you've put in my hands. And finished praying. Then I heard the Holy Spirit say, you didn't ask me to help you steward the people. And, I don't want to stand before Jesus and say, here's all I did the things, Jesus.
Yeah.
But where's the people? Like, who are the people that I slowed down for the one?
Yeah.
I was on a mission. I was doing the thing, Jesus. I was on point with the task. That how many people did I walk by in the process that needed me to slow down and say, you're the one today. You're the one. Yeah. And so I want to bring in glory in the things that we do, for sure.
It's the people.
It's the people.
It is the people, and it's the people that we get crossed up with.
Yeah.
It's the people that expose our weaknesses. Yeah. And it's the people that Jesus died for. So when we learn to steward the people and our own heart with the people, that's really where the transformation comes.
Inside of us. It's what you just said. Is becoming like Jesus, because he was a man on a mission. but he always kept the people. And
Yeah, well, you
that's
think about
like
the
Jesus.
woman at the well.
Right.
He sent the guys to go get food, and he took what appeared to be a side trip to Samaria, but it wasn't no side trip.
No,
He was
no,
equipping the first woman evangelist.
went out of his way.
He went out of his way. So I just love you so much, Ann. I appreciate everything you and Dusty are doing for the kingdom of God. I'm so excited that you're coming to Crown to be a part and to minister. We're gonna do things different this year. We're gonna hit them with a fire hose of ministry this year. It's not gonna be the normal, just what we've done in the past, but God's gonna use everyone that has been called to help us, and we're going to see so much transformation. And I'm excited about what God is doing. I'm excited about Mountain Gateway. If anyone here wants to have some missionaries in their church, or have Ann and Dusty come to tell you about this ministry, this would be a great place to start. And tell them where they can find y'all.
Our website is mountaingateway.org, and there's a
Okay.
contact us, and they could even just address it to me, and then I can reach out and see how we can serve. Yeah.
That'd be great. And then if there's any of you that have kids or young people that are getting out of high school and that want to do a missions trip and want to go to a school to find out if missions is for them, Mountain Gateway is incredible. These group of men and women of God are the best of the best. They live for God. Their private lives mirror their public life. And your children, your young, and I say children because anybody, I'm 60, so 20 is a child to me, 18 is a child, but your children would be safe there. They would be pastored and ministered to and stewarded well. So, and if you're looking to sow money into missions, this is one of the greatest places you could sow. It's good soil. Ann and Dusty are amazing. Britt and Audrey are amazing, and their whole team. And so I'm just really, really happy to be connected with you guys. I love you so much. I pray for you. I know God has got great things. I know we're about to see the greatest revival we've ever seen in America, Ann. And I'm preparing for it in my heart. And I really believe that all of the weeding that God has been doing in my heart, because that's what he's been doing. He's been weeding my garden, is preparing me for this harvest so that we can steward the people, along with the task. And so, Lord, I just thank you for Ann and Dusty. I just declare the blessing of the Lord over them and everything they do. I declare the blessing of the Lord over Mountain Gateway, but and Britt and Audrey and all of their assignments from heaven that they're doing on earth. But Lord, for Ann and Dusty, I ask you, God, to just bless them in just some private, personal ways that they've been believing for, that maybe they've told no one about. And I ask you, God, to provide for them in the natural and even in the spiritual with their children and extended families. I ask you, God, to just do a incredible work. And I just see so much blessing coming to you and Dusty, and just incredible, not only financial, but even with your children, with your extended family. I see God really healing Dusty's son. There is coming a Bethel moment that will change him forever. It will be no more like this, but it will be a real major transformation where it never wanes again. And I see a major thing happening there. I see both of your children, or all of your children, the two girls, and then yours and Dusty's second family there, the top crop. I call that the top crop. My daddy used to call Cindy and I the top crop because he had us late in life. But I see all four of your children just doing, all five of your children doing incredible things. Jaden is going to just do amazing things. God is teaching Jaden and training him, but Jaden's going to have such a hunger for the Lord, and all of the things that he's around is going to feel empty. And then he's going to realize it's got to come from that inner walk. And so God is really growing his inner relationship, his communion time. And then I sense God's doing something great with Bailey, and just blessing her and her husband, and blessing everything they set their hand to do. Bailey is she marches to the beat of a different drum. That girl, she is so secure in who God has called her to be, and that is such a blessing. And she's going to teach women how to be secure in who God's called them to be. And there's no pretense with Bailey. And God's doing something really special in her. I see her leading at some point, hundreds of thousands of women, and God's growing her up. He's growing her up. He's teaching her some things because she's pretty black and white. And so he is strengthening her compassion and her ability to steward people, because that's something that she'll have to work on. But God is going to call her. She's got for such a time as this call. And so it's all working. You're going to see in your children what you've sown into others. And there'll be a day that you will support your children like you support Mountain Gateway. And so as you're pouring into Mountain Gateway, and you've poured into ministries and churches your whole life, you will do this with your own children. The blessing of the Lord is rich over you and Dusty. And he's so proud of you for being faithful to him. And for all of you ladies that are listening, and for everyone that's listening, I feel such a strong faith that you're in a turnaround season, a miracle season. And we must prepare ourselves for what is ahead in America. I'm telling you, ladies, as sure as I'm living and breathing, we got to prepare ourselves. So I'm not going to hold y'all any longer. I love you, Ann. I will see you in Houston in a few weeks. Y'all have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll talk soon. Okay. God bless. We love you so much.